You ever wake up on a Saturday morning, step out on your porch with a mug of coffee in hand, and see your own woods paved over by a guy who says he had every right to do it? Yeah, that happened. And if you think I'm exaggerating, buckle up, because this story's about to get a whole lot messy, and maybe just a little bit petty. But if you've ever had a run-in with an HOA, you know sometimes petty is the only language they understand. Let me back up a sec. When I bought my house, I was looking for peace. 2 acres of mostly woods, just enough clearing for the house, quiet enough to hear the wind in the pines and the birds bickering at sunrise. My real estate agent, bless her, said the place was a steal because it wasn't part of the local HOA. She said it like she was whispering a secret. I made sure to get every bit of proof at closing. Deed, surveys, legal statements, the works. I didn't want those HOA folks telling me how to live, what to plant, or which direction my mailbox had to face. My land had been here way before those rules showed up, and the previous owner made it clear he'd never join, not for any amount. So I moved in, kept to myself mostly, just a wave here or there, kept my yard trimmed, didn't win any awards for lawn of the month, but it wasn't some jungle either. Not like I had an abandoned car out front or a bathtub full of sunflowers. You know, just a house, trees, and peace. My neighbor to the east, let's call him Steven, seemed decent at first, but looking back, there were signs. He was one of those on the board HOA types. Always seemed a little too invested in what the rest of us were up to, but I figured, as long as he kept the HOA drama on his side of the line, we'd be fine. Except it wasn't fine, not for long. Steven started dropping little hints about my yard. Unkept, he called it, which was rich coming from a guy who spent his weekends out there with a ruler measuring his grass. He said a few times it'd be better if I just joined the HOA so everyone could be on the same page. Every time, I just smiled and said, Steven, this land's not part of your HOA and never will be. And that should have been the end of it. But Steven had plans, big ones apparently. He'd always had a circular driveway, but he wanted better access to his massive garage in the back. He'd mentioned it to me once or twice, talking like it was just something he was mulling over. I didn't pay much attention. Should have, because I had to travel for work, a few weeks out of state. I'm a consultant, so sometimes I'm just gone. When I rolled back into my own driveway, the first thing I noticed was the smell, fresh asphalt and diesel. Not my usual woods. I walked out back and just stood there, jaw on the ground. Steven had built himself a brand new driveway. Not a little gravel path. No, we're talking 12 feet wide, 40 feet deep, paved, neat edges, the whole works. And not just on his land. This thing cut a full swath through my trees, right into my property. He'd taken down 6 trees, cleared underbrush, hauled in gravel, laid pavement, everything. It looked professional, must have cost him 20 grand. At least. I'm standing there like I'd just gotten mugged, trying to make sense of it. Turns out, while I was gone, construction crews had been working all week, and the neighbors all figured I'd hired them. No one thought to call me, because it looked so legit. I walked over to Steven's, knocked, probably a little harder than I meant to. He opens the door, and before I can even get out what the hell, he hits me with, the HOA approved it. It's all legal. I said, Steven, I'm not in the HOA. You have no authority to build on my land. He just smirked, told me the board did a survey, said it was for the good of the neighborhood, to add another access point, raise property values, whatever. I was seeing red, but he just doubled down, told me maybe if I took better care of my land and joined the HOA, I could have had a say. So I did what any rational person would. I dug out my own survey, called a professional, paid extra for a rush job. Within days, the new survey confirmed exactly what I knew. Steven's driveway crossed my line by 40 feet, ran 60 feet along my woods, and 6 mature trees were just gone. I took photos, videos, documented every bit. I went back to Steven, survey in hand, thinking, maybe he's just ignorant, maybe he'll see sense. Nope. He barely glanced at it, told me the HOA had their own survey, done by some company called Precision Property Solutions. Wouldn't show it to me though, said it was for HOA members only. Then he told me point blank, the driveway's staying. You can get over it, or get a lawyer. HOA's got lawyers too. He even threatened more, said the HOA had plans for my land, maybe a park, maybe new utilities, Just improvements, he called it, gesturing at my woods like it was some empty lot. I went straight to an attorney. The guy nearly laughed himself off his chair reading the whole story. Said Stephen had committed trespassing, destruction of property, maybe even criminal mischief, depending on how the DA wanted to play it. And I had an open and shut case for a lawsuit, probably could get triple damages. My lawyer sent Stephen a certified letter, remove the driveway in 30 days, pay for damages, or see us in court. Stephen lawyered up with the HOA attorney, claimed their survey showed the driveway was fine, sent us a copy of their survey, and my attorney actually laughed out loud. The so-called survey company? Turns out it wasn't licensed, just a property management company run by Stephen's brother-in-law. They literally faked a survey. Armed with that, my lawyer filed suit against Stephen, the HOA, and the survey company for fraud, trespass, property damage, and a laundry list of other stuff I'd never even heard of. We filed a police report too. But meanwhile, Stephen kept using the driveway every day, like he was daring me to stop him. My lawyer told me, don't block it, don't mess with it, just document everything for the court. A few weeks later, we finally got our day in court. Stephen swaggered in with his HOA attorney, waving their fake survey around. My lawyer brought in the state licensing board records, proved the survey was a total fake. Brought my real surveyor in to testify, laid out every detail. The judge took one look at the evidence and slapped Stephen with an injunction. Stop using the driveway. Show cause why you shouldn't be. Held in contempt for knowingly building on someone else's land. The HOA lawyer tried to play dumb, said they relied on the survey in good faith. The judge just shook his head, said even an HOA board should know better than to build on land that doesn't belong to them. But Stephen wasn't done. 2 days later, I come home and find his truck parked halfway down my woods on the illegal driveway. I called my attorney, who told me to call the police. Cops showed up, Stephen argued, but eventually moved his truck, still acting like he was the victim. The officers told him straight, court orders in place, next time it's an arrest. Now, I knew I needed a more permanent solution. My lawyer said, you can block it now. Just make sure you don't step over the line. So, I got creative, called a heavy equipment company, rented an excavator, and ordered 6 giant concrete barriers, like the kind you see on highways. Scheduled it for Saturday morning, made sure Stephen was home to watch. The flatbed drops the barriers on my lawn. Stephen comes out looking all confused. Then the excavator arrives. I meet the operator, show him the survey, property pins, everything. Stephen walks over. You can't block the driveway, he yells. I just smile, tell him, making improvements, Stephen. We line the barriers right across the driveway, 2 feet inside my property, no doubt about it. Dug a trench 3 feet deep and 4 feet wide behind them, then piled the dirt up on my side. It was a fortress. No way around, no way over. Stephen's on his phone, pacing, yelling to the HOA. I put up private property, no trespassing signs, set up trail cameras, and went inside to crack a beer. Next business day, the HOA attorney called, threatening more lawsuits for interfering with HOA infrastructure. My lawyer told him to pound sand, reminded him about the court order, and offered to add harassment to the lawsuit if they kept at it. Weeks passed. Stephen's driveway sat there, useless. I watched him on camera, standing at the barrier, measuring it, scratching his head. He had to go back to using his old, inconvenient driveway, which just made me laugh. Then, out of the blue, I get a call from a detective. Turns out the police were looking into the fake survey. My attorney and I met with them, gave them everything we had. A week later, Stephen gets arrested, charged with fraud, criminal mischief, and theft for the trees. His brother-in-law gets picked up for fraud too. The story hit the local paper. Suddenly, Stephen's not so popular in the HOA anymore. He resigns from the board, neighbors start keeping their distance, and the lawsuit picks up speed. Stephen tries to settle multiple times. My lawyer says we have him dead to rights. So we push for everything. Triple damages for trespass, value of mature trees, removal costs, legal fees, stress compensation, punitive damages. His insurance refuses to cover anything intentional and criminal, so he's on his own. At trial, the prosecutor shredded him, brought in experts, proved the survey was a total fake, laid out the property lines, showed Stephen knew exactly what he was doing. The judge, not amused, sentenced Stephen to 18 months in county jail with a shot at work release after 6. His brother-in-law got a year. The civil suit settled right after. Stephen had to sell his house to pay the $200,000 plus bill. HOA had to formally recognize my property was outside their control and send out a letter to every member. Even they had to pay some damages, since they backed Stephen's play. As for Stephen, by the time he got out, his house was gone, wife filed for divorce, and he left the state. Brother-in-law lost his business. I used a slice of the settlement to build a big, beautiful privacy fence and upgrade my own driveway, just to twist the knife a bit. The concrete barriers are still out there, neighborhood landmark now. When new folks ask, I tell the whole story just to keep the legend alive. Maybe it'll remind the next overzealous HOA that not everyone's willing to roll over. So, am I the a-hole here for going all the way? Some folks say I should have settled, that it was too much, ruined his life, blah blah. But honestly, you mess with someone's property, you forge documents, you double down even when you're caught. Maybe you earn what you get. But I'm curious, what would you have done? Would you have gone as far as I did, or just let it go? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me if I went too far, or if this is exactly what needs to happen when someone crosses the line. And hey, if you like this story, give it a thumbs up, share your own HOA nightmares, and let's get a debate going. Where's the line between justice and revenge, anyway? I'll be reading your comments, maybe with a cold one on the porch, next to my concrete barriers.